Western Plaguelands is essentially a post-apocalyptic zone, long after the Third War, filled with undead, blighted forests and abandoned villages. The zone borders Eastern Plaguelands, and the two together were the epicenter of the plague that turned the world upside down. Ondor Hall, the main human settlement here, was destroyed during the Scourge invasion, then partially rebuilt by adventurers in classic World of Warcraft. The city itself has layers of history in its architecture. The zone is famous for having some of the first high-level undead mobs in Classic, making it a hotspot for both leveling and grinding reputation. There's a secretive group of Argent Dawn NPCs here, the precursor to the Argent Crusade, and they provide early lore about fighting the Scourge. Western Plaguelands contains the Hearthglen area, which was originally a stronghold for the Scarlet Crusade, a fanatical human order dedicated to eradicating all undead. The zone features a lot of rare mobs, including elite bosses that drop unique loot and world drops sought after by collectors. This area is haunted not just by the undead, but also by the echoes of the people who lived here before the Scourge. You can find journals and quest text that tell tragic stories of the plague. Western Plaguelands is one of the first zones where Blizzard experimented with combining open-world questing and dungeon preparation, giving players a sense of a continuous storyline. Despite its danger, the zone's landscape is incredibly detailed. Rolling hills, corrupted forests, and decayed structures that make it one of the most atmospheric zones in classic World of Warcraft. Hearthstone-style reagents and herbs. Herbs like Goldthorn and Kingsblood spawn here, perfect for alchemy or herbalism. Scarlet-themed gear. Many Scarlet mobs drop weapons and armor pieces, like Scarlet Crusade Mail, useful for leveling or transmog. Andor Hall rare drops. Elite mobs in Andor Hall can drop things like runecloth, linen, and unique quest items. Plague-related consumables. Items like Plague Bloom or Cured Plague Sample show up for certain quests, essential for lore progression. Weapons for leveling. You'll find things like Crusader's Hammer, Soldier's Sword, or other Bowie gear good for mid-level characters. Trinkets and collectibles. Some mobs drop trinkets like Fetish of the Scarlet Crusade or Argent Dawn reputation items. Quest-specific loot. Stuff like Andor Hall Watch or Plagueland relics, which feed into chains and give reputation rewards. Rare recipes. Occasionally, you can get crafting recipes from mobs, especially alchemy or tailoring recipes for higher-level consumables, coins, and miscellaneous currency. Standard drops like silver, gold, and copper, but also rare coins used in event or rep turn-ins. Unique world drops, things like heavy rune cloth bandage or worn short sword that are nostalgia tier for classic collectors. Western Plaguelands is packed with quests that are both lore-heavy and grindy, perfect for leveling and reputation. Here's a selection of notable quests you'll find here. Villains of Darrowshire. Track down the last remnants of the Scourge in the ruined village of Darrowshire. Lot of undead, a lot of lore. Of forgotten memories. Investigate Andor Hall's past and recover the lost memories of those who lived here. Before the Scourge. Very atmospheric. The Battle of Andor Hall. Classic chain where you help defend Andor Hall from waves of Scourge attacks. Good combat experience and some reputation. Defenders of Darrowshire. Recruit survivors and clear out infestations in the surrounding area. Basically, you're the last hope for the villagers. Carrion Grubbage. Collect corpses and samples from undead mobs for Argent Dawn or quest turn-ins. Slightly gross, but lore-rich. Alas, Andor Hall. Quest line that dives into the tragedy of the town's fall and the fate of its citizens. Great for storytelling. The Scourge Cauldrons. Destroy plague cauldrons hidden around the zone, cutting off reinforcements for Scourge mobs. Tactical fun. Red Path's Shield. Recover a lost artifact from a haunted area, a mix of combat and exploration. Villainous Valdar. Hunt down a mini-boss or rare enemy terrorizing a village. Classic solo content. A Plague Upon Thee. Collect blight samples or kill specific undead for quest completion. Basically an excuse to mow down mobs while learning zone lore. Sitting in the group finder queue, and wow, this is its own little ecosystem. It's like a waiting room for chaos. Tanks are out there somewhere, probably forgetting their abilities. DPS are spamming ready, and healers are silently praying no one pulls 3 packs at once. And here I am, a Tauren Druid, patiently waiting, thinking about how my HOTs are ready for anything. If only I could click Enter Dungeon already. The group finder is supposed to make things easier. No more shouting in trade chat, No more random whispers hoping someone wants to run a dungeon. But in reality, it's a game of chance. Will I get a competent tank? Maybe. Will the rogue pull early? Almost certainly. That's why being a druid is perfect here, versatile enough to survive any madness this system throws at me. Finally, the cue popped and we're stepping into the dungeon. Time to switch from solo wandering druid to full-on balance/resto multitasking mode. Balance form for trash pulls, resto ready if things go sideways, because in a pug, chaos is guaranteed. Ah, Marudon, the infamous purple cavern of elemental chaos. This dungeon is a real treat for any Tauren Druid because it combines lava, slimes, and a ton of lore about the elemental plane. It's not huge, but every corner is packed with danger and opportunity. The dungeon is split into two wings, one dominated by the Earth Warders and their molten minions, and the other by slimes and noxious mobs. As a balanced druid, this is perfect. Wrath and Moonfire make short work of the scattered packs, while cat form can help for tricky pulls or mobility. Being a resto druid in a dungeon is like being a mobile lifesaver with a hint of chaos management. Your primary job is obvious, keep everyone alive. But it's more than just spamming rejuvenation. It's predicting damage, managing mana, and knowing when to drop cooldowns like nature's swiftness or tranquility to save the party from certain doom. In a pug, things get interesting. Tanks pull like they're auditioning for a circus act, DPS forget mechanics, and the rogue thinks stealth means standing in fire. That's where a Resto Druid shines. You adapt. Life bloom on the tank, rejuvenation on whoever's taking random hits, and healing touch for the oh crap moments. And just like that, the group is on fire. Every pull is coordinated, the tanks holding aggro perfectly. DPS are actually focusing targets instead of randomly pulling. And the healer, well, that's me, making it look easy. Balanced druid form for the trash, Resto ready for anything, and we're just melting through this dungeon. The trash pulls feel almost effortless, Wrath and Moonfire ticking everything down. While I drop AOs on the tank and anyone who dares to take random damage. The synergy is beautiful. It's one of those runs where everyone actually knows what they're doing, and the dungeon stops feeling like a chaotic guessing game. Bosses, we're breezing through them. Mechanics are being respected, abilities timed perfectly, and wipes are nowhere in sight. It's rare, it's satisfying, and it reminds you why dungeons can be so much fun when the stars align. Maraudon is an elemental-themed dungeon located in Desolace, divided into multiple wings. One filled with slimes and corrupted creatures, another with earth warders and molten enemies. The dungeon has two main entrances, the surface entrance and the caverns of Maraudon, which leads to the deeper sections where the bosses are located. Celebrus the Cursed, the first boss, was once an earth elemental who turned against his own kin due to elemental imbalance. Landslide, one of the earth elemental bosses, is famous for his ability to knock players around and deal massive AoE damage, testing tank positioning and healer reflexes. Tinkerer Gizlock, the mechanical goblin boss in Maraudon, drops some of the best mid-level engineering schematics in classic WoW. here she is, Princess Tharadras herself. She's massive, she's enraged, and she's basically the queen of elemental chaos down here. As a Tauren Druid, standing in her presence feels like being a tiny cow in the shadow of an angry mountain. Mechanically, she's a mixed bag, AoE damage that punishes the group if they bunch up, knockback abilities that can ruin positioning, and summons that test everyone's crowd control. Balance form makes short work of her adds, while resto form keeps the group alive through her earth-shaking attacks. Dungeon complete. Back out in the Western Plaguelands, and the zone suddenly feels even more alive after all that chaos. The streets of Andorhall, the ruined farms, the blighted forests, they hit differently after just being in a dungeon full of mechanics, trash, and bosses. Now it's back to questing, loot collecting, and maybe a little rep grinding with the Argent Dawn. Each step through these haunted hills is a reminder of the Scourge's devastation, but also of the stories hidden in every ruined village and graveyard. You can see the mobs respawning, the forests still corrupted, and the occasional wandering rare or elite waiting to challenge you. As a druid, it's a perfect time to switch back between balance for fast kills and resto if something unexpectedly hits you, or if you want to heal a stray NPC caught in the madness. All right, back in the group finder queue. Time to crank out dungeons and level up as fast as possible. This is the no-nonsense grind mode of Classic WoW. Every dungeon is XP, every pull is progress, and every boss drop might just be the gear upgrade you've been waiting for. Being in queue is a bit of a waiting game, but it's the perfect moment to plan strategy. Balance for trash, resto for emergencies, and always keep an eye on your mana. You're essentially a mobile safety net while still dealing damage, which makes leveling efficient and survivable. The group finder now becomes your highway through XP. No more wandering from quest hub to quest hub. Just queue, pop, pull, and repeat. And the best part? With a coordinated group, trash pulls fly by, bosses go down quickly, and the XP per hour skyrockets compared to solo questing. Loot is secondary but still satisfying. Weapons, armor, quest items, and those rare drops that make your druid look and feel stronger with each run. Every dungeon clears more than just mobs. It clears a chunk of your path to the next level. So, while we wait for the next queue pop, picture the chaos we'll handle. Tanks pulling like maniacs, DPS focusing, hopefully the right targets, and me, the druid, keeping everyone alive and wrecking mobs with spells. This is where leveling gets serious, efficient, fast, and entirely satisfying. Ah, Uldaman. Now we're stepping into one of the classic Titan ruins of Azeroth. As a Tauren Druid, just walking through the entrance gives you chills. Massive stone halls, mysterious statues, and the echoes of an ancient civilization long gone. The dungeon is a mix of humanoid trogs and Titan constructs, with a few tricky boss mechanics sprinkled in. Balance form is great for clearing packs quickly, but you'll want resto ready for any unexpected AoE damage. These trogs hit harder than you'd expect at mid-level. Lore-wise, Uldaman is fascinating. It's a Titan vault that was buried long before the events of the Scourge, filled with secrets about Azeroth's early history. Digging into the dungeon's story gives a real sense of scale. These halls were designed for gods, not mortals. Some notable bosses. Arcadus, the massive stone titan, patrols the halls and requires precise pulling and positioning. Revelosh and Ironia, each with mechanics that test your awareness and timing. Ancient Stonekeeper adds a bit of puzzle-solving flavor, since some of the dungeon involves switches and environmental hazards. Loot here is solid mid-level gear, trinkets, weapons, and some pieces that are great for gearing up your druid or selling on the age. And don't forget the quest lines tied to Uldaman. Some of them reveal Titan lore that's easy to miss if you're just rushing through. Uldaman is packed with hidden lore and interesting tidbits. Here are some fun facts you might not know. Uldaman was originally one of the first Titan-themed dungeons in classic WoW, showing off Blizzard's early attempts at weaving deep lore into dungeon design. The dungeon features a mix of trogs and titanic constructs, a contrast that's rare in other classic dungeons. Arcadus, the main stone titan, actually patrols parts of the dungeon instead of sitting in one spot. A rare early example of dynamic boss movement. Some of the dungeon's puzzles involve switches and environmental hazards, hinting at Titan technology long before we had fully interactive dungeons. The dungeon's layout is essentially a vertical maze, multiple wings, secret paths, and hidden rooms for loot or quest items. There's a quest line tied to Uldaman called The Lost Dwarves that gives a lot of background on the early history of the dwarves and Trog conflict. Ironia drops elemental-themed loot, a nod to Uldaman's connection with Earth and Titan power. Revelosh was originally a level 44 to 46 boss, and soloing him as a mid-level druid is a rite of passage for some players. The dungeon has a secret cave-in path leading to extra treasure. Early players loved finding this and feeling like explorers. Uldaman's visual design influenced future Titan-themed content in WoW, including Wrath of the Lich King and Cataclysm Titan raids. And while we're cruising through dungeons, picking up loot, and soaking in the chaos of Azeroth, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Every click helps keep the adventures coming. More dungeons, more quests, and more druid chaos. Seriously, it's like giving your friendly Tauren Druid a virtual pat on the back while I balance through trash pulls, resto heal through wipes, and narrate all the lore you might have missed. So go ahead, smash that like, subscribe, and let's keep leveling, exploring, and generally making Azeroth a little more fun, one dungeon at a time. Why did the druid cross the road? To shapeshift into a cat and sneak past the chicken unnoticed. How many druids does it take to change a light bulb? Just one. But first, they have to shapeshift into a bear, a cat, a moonkin, and maybe even a tree for moral support. Why don't druids ever get lost in Azeroth? Because they always follow the moon, or the bear tracks. What's a druid's favorite music? Anything with a good root beat. Why did the druid bring a ladder into the dungeon? Because they heard there were high-level mobs. Ah, chaos. The natural state of every dungeon run with a pug. Tanks pulling like they're auditioning for Cirque du Soleil. DPS forgetting mechanics and standing in fire. And healers praying their HOTs tick fast enough to keep everyone alive. That's the beauty of chaos in WoW. As a druid, chaos is where we shine. Balance form lets you melt mobs from a safe distance, while resto form keeps the group alive through the madness. You're juggling spells, positioning, and mechanics all at once. It's like being a conductor for an orchestra, where half the musicians are on fire, and the other half decided to play drums in the rafters. And just like that, the dungeon is coming to a close. Trash cleared, bosses down, loot picked up, and the group is still alive, a rare triumph in the chaos of a pug run. Balance form for the final pulls, resto ready just in case, and everyone's catching their breath. It's that satisfying moment when the dungeon finally clicks, when all the spells, heals, and pulls line up perfectly, and you realize that all the chaos was worth it. Loot is distributed, XP is counted, and maybe a few rares dropped that make the run even sweeter. The group congratulates each other, maybe a bit of joking about who pulled what, and then it's back to the world outside, the streets of Ondorhal, the forests of Desolace, or wherever Azeroth will throw you next. Ah, the classic full bag struggle. Every dungeon, every quest, and suddenly your inventory is bursting at the seams. What a drag. Time to prioritize. Gear upgrades first, quest items second, trash loot last, or maybe just sell everything to a vendor and hope you didn't accidentally discard something rare. Classic Azeroth problems, right? As a druid, it's even worse. You've got multiple forms to think about. Balance gear, resto gear, cat and bear gear for emergencies. It all stacks up fast, and suddenly your bag isn't just full, it's a chaotic mess, reflecting the chaos of your dungeon runs. Alright, so yeah, I only go resto in dungeons. Balance is fun for questing and leveling. Once I'm in here with a group, it's all about keeping these people alive. HOTs on the tank, rejuvenation rolling, swift mend for the emergencies. Wild growth when the DPS inevitably stand in fire, and a quick tranquility when it all goes sideways. It's chaos, but it's my chaos. Nothing's better than watching a tank pull too much, the DPS panic, and me clutch healing everyone back from the brink. That's why I queue as healer. It's a thrill ride every single time. And yeah, being resto means I'm not topping the damage meters, but I am the reason this run doesn't end in a wipe. Another boss down, another pug saved, another story for the stream. Oh man, full bags. Now that's the real dungeon after the dungeon. Every pull, every boss, every trash pack adds more loot to the pile. Greens, blues, quest items, crafting mats, vendor trash. And suddenly your inventory is screaming at you. Nope, can't fit anything else. Clearing it out is a whole process. First, you have to decide what to keep. Gear upgrades for balance or resto, quest items, rare drops. Then, figure out what can be sold to a vendor or posted on the auction house. And let's not forget the random junk that clutters space. Scrolls, potions, elemental bits, all things you pick up because why not? But now you regret it. For a druid, it's extra annoying. Multiple forms, multiple gear sets, multiple consumables. Each slot feels like a tiny decision tree. And when you're mid-quest or mid-dungeon, you can't just stop and organize for 20 minutes. You gotta shove stuff into the bank, sell off the trash, and hope you didn't accidentally vendor something important. In short, bag management is the unsung minigame of Azeroth. It's tedious, it's annoying, it's a drag. But when it's finally done, everything feels so much cleaner and more satisfying. And the best part? You get to do it all again on the next dungeon run. Oh man, full bags. Now that's the real dungeon after the dungeon. Every pull, every boss, every track. Ah, the unhealthy-looking pumpkin quest. This one's a little weird, but it's classic Western Plaguelands flavor. You spot this shriveled, diseased pumpkin sitting in the fields. Obviously not your everyday farming produce. The quest usually involves harvesting it carefully, without letting it rot further, or maybe investigating why it's a little more sinister than expected. Classic Plaguelands stuff. Even the vegetables are creepy. All right, back from the bathroom break, and just in time to jump back into the chaos of Azeroth. Nothing like a quick pause to remember how much fun it is to be a Tauren Druid in the middle of questing and dungeon runs. Balance form for solo questing. Check resto ready for dungeon chaos. Check bags a little messy after that last run. Double check. But hey, breaks are necessary. Even druids need to stretch, grab a drink, and maybe laugh at how absurdly full their inventory is. Now it's time to get back to leveling, exploring, and probably queuing for the next dungeon. The world isn't going to clean itself, mobs aren't going to wait, and there's still loot, XP, and chaos waiting for us. So let's dive right back in. 10 minutes in queue and still waiting. Oh man, this is the classic desperate healer experience. Honestly, I feel like I could have leveled 3 more times just solo questing by now. You know it's bad when you start joking to yourself. Maybe if I stand really still, a tank will just appear out of nowhere, like a paladin fairy godparent. Or the thought of putting on a free tank will heal your dungeon sign in Goldshire. I mean, I am a druid. I can heal anyone, anywhere. But apparently that's not enough to make a tank magically spawn. Queue times are weirdly suspenseful. You start imagining every random NPC as a tank. Ah, yes, that Tauren warrior. Perfect. He'll totally hold aggro for me. Spoiler, he won't. And of course, the longer the queue, the more you start practicing your in-dungeon jokes. Pull all the mobs? Don't worry, I've got a hot for that, probably. Honestly, this is the perfect time for druid self-amusement. Cat forms doing laps around the inn, moonkin dance-offs, and quietly judging the DPS who haven't queued yet. All in good fun while we wait for that elusive tank. Ah, multitasking at its finest, doing bad corn removed while waiting in queue. Classic healer life. When the dungeon won't start, you make your own productivity, or chaos. I can just picture it. Tauren Druid, in balance form, running through the fields, picking out diseased corn, all while muttering, "This is what happens when you let the Scourge handle agriculture." And the jokes write themselves. Who knew removing unhealthy crops could be more stressful than a pug dungeon? Seriously, the undead mobs might respawn faster than I can clean these pumpkins and corn stalks. It's a weird little slice of Azeroth life. The quiet, oddly meditative questing interrupted only by the occasional aggro or the reminder that my bags are full. But hey, at least it's keeping me sane while I wait for a tank to appear out of thin air. Honestly, by the time this queue pops, I might be an expert at corn management, plague vegetable disposal, and multitasking like a pro druid, all in a day's work. All right, folks, I hate to be a bother, but you know what's more rare than a tank in Group Finder? A subscribe button click. So if you're enjoying watching a giant Tauren Druid clean up plague corn, heal random pugs, and complain about full bags, smash that subscribe button like it's a boss standing in Moonfire. Subscriptions are like HOTS for the channel. They keep it alive over time, ticking away, slowly healing my soul while I sit in this queue. And likes? Likes are basically instant cast heals. Boom. Full health, full motivation. So yeah, don't make me pop tranquility on stream. Hit the button, drop a like, toss a comment, help a poor druid out while I try to keep Azeroth alive one diseased vegetable at a time. Cringe? Me? Never. I'm a Tauren Druid, in the middle of Azeroth, juggling HOTs, Moonfire, and a queue that's taking forever. Cringe is for people who aren't saving pugs from total disaster. Honestly, if loving full bags, unhealthy pumpkins, and bad corn is cringe, then call me the cringiest druid alive. And you know what? I'll wear it proudly, because someone's gotta keep the chaos in check, and it might as well be me. Besides, cringe doesn't heal the tank, it doesn't drop loot, and it definitely doesn't clear dungeons. So we embrace it, lean into it, and keep shifting forms, throwing HOTs and making Azeroth a slightly more entertaining place. So yeah, cringe or not, I'm in character. Tauren Druid, full bags, queuing for dungeon chaos. And ready to make the stream as ridiculous and fun as possible. All right, Eastern Plague Lands. Here we go. The moment you step over the border, it's like walking into a darker, even more twisted version of Western Plague Lands. Undead roaming the roads, corrupted wildlife, and that unmistakable haze of plague over the land. As a Tauren Druid, it's the perfect place to switch between balance for quick pulls and resto when things inevitably go sideways. The zone is packed with quests, elite mobs, and random encounters that can make you feel like you're in the middle of a horror story, with occasional comedy courtesy of your own form-shifting antics. Eastern Plaguelands has a different vibe too. More open roads, ruined outposts, and haunting forests. It's rich for exploration, farming, and quest chains. And let's not forget the Argent Dawn. Lots of reputation to grind while fighting the Scourge. It's also perfect for stream content, spooky scenery, challenging mobs, and plenty of opportunities for druid jokes and chaotic moments. And honestly, traveling between quests and zones gives time to pop Utes, moonfire some mobs, and enjoy the scenery while queuing for the next dungeon. All right, time for some fun lore nuggets you might not know while we make our way into Eastern Plaguelands. The Scarlet Crusade's secrets. Everyone knows the Scarlet Crusade were fanatical zealots, but did you know much of their madness came from Balnazar, a dreadlord, secretly pulling the strings? So yeah, those holy warriors were basically puppets of the Burning Legion. Plague lands used to be fertile. Long before the plague, these lands were the breadbasket of Lordaeron. Rich farmland, beautiful villages, and thriving trade. Which is why quests like Bad Corn hit extra hard. It's showing how corruption rotted everything from the ground up. Tyrion Fordring's redemption. One of WoW's most famous paladins, Tyrion, actually starts his road to redemption here in the Plaguelands. He'd been disgraced, living in exile, but his compassion for an orc prisoner reignited his faith, a story that eventually leads him to wield Ashbringer, the haunted tower of Darrowshire. Darrowshire isn't just a sad ruin, it's tied to one of the most emotional questlines in the game. Helping the ghost of Pamela Redpath and uncovering the fate of her family is one of the most haunting, bittersweet stories in WoW history. Zul'Mashar, at the northern edge of Eastern Plaguelands, is a forgotten troll necropolis. A lot of players skip it, but it ties into the larger story of troll death magic, showing how the Scourge wasn't the only dark power at work here. The Argent Dawn versus the Scourge. The Argent Dawn had their headquarters in Light's Hope Chapel, and it's not just a quest hub. Canonically, it's one of the few places the Scourge could never fully corrupt because of the massive amount of holy energy concentrated there. So yeah, Eastern Plaguelands isn't just undead everywhere. It's a land layered with tragedy, corruption, and resistance. And as a druid, it feels extra fitting to bring a little healing, even if it's just through HOTs and Moonfire. The young calf has been soothed. The herd is safe once more, and my paws return to the keyboard. Where were we? Ah, yes, purging evil and maybe filling my bags with too much junk again. All right, so this one's called What I Do Best, and honestly, it's pretty simple. The quest giver flat out says it. She does the thinking, we do the smashing. Fair trade, if you ask me. We're basically tasked with cutting down some of the Plague Land's nastiest undead. Death Knights, Nerubians, Gargoyles, you name it. And lore-wise, these aren't just random mobs. These guys are remnants of Arthas's first wave of destruction, the leftovers rotting in Lordaeron. So, while it might look like we're just farming XP, what we're actually doing is cleaning up the Scourge one skull at a time. Less plague, less stink, fewer skeletons trying to gnaw on my hooves at night. That's a win. Ding, level 40. That's a big milestone right there. For a Tauren Druid, this is where things start to feel real. New ranks of spells, sharper claws, shinier feathers, and most importantly, I can almost taste that epic mount speed just around the corner. Balance leveling just got smoother. Starfire's hitting harder, Wrath feels like it's coming out of a machine gun, and mana efficiency's creeping in. And as resto in dungeons? Oh yeah, bigger heals, faster casts, less panic when the tank forgets what a cooldown is. Level 40 is like the game saying, "Congrats, calf. You've grown your first real horns." Alright, hitting level 40 isn't just a number. It comes with a few fun little nuggets you might not know. First real mount. Tauren can finally grab their basic riding skill. Bye-bye slow travel, hello hooves at full speed across Azeroth. Spell upgrades unlock. Moonfire, Wrath, and Rejuvenation all get more powerful, so balance and resto forms feel way more satisfying. Dungeon queue availability improves. You're suddenly a much more desirable healer or DPS. Pugs love a level 40 druid. Talent trees start to shine. You can make meaningful choices now, shaping how you play both solo and in dungeons. Elite mobs become a real challenge. You're not overpowered yet, so you start learning mechanics and positioning. Every pull counts. New quests open up. Zones like Eastern Plaguelands really start to give you layered storylines with harder mobs and better loot. PvP doors unlock. You can now queue for battlegrounds. The classic 40 to 49 bracket is chaotic fun. Bag space starts feeling tight. By now, you've got a lot of loot, and managing inventory is its own little minigame. Druid versatility is at a peak. You're switching forms all the time. Balance for soloing, resto for dungeon healing, cat for stealthy pulls, bear for emergencies. It feels like you've grown up. Level 40 is that sweet spot where your character really starts to feel powerful and capable, but still vulnerable enough to keep things exciting. Ah, the classic level 40 healer curse. Queuing for dungeons, and suddenly it's like I'm invisible. Nobody wants to dungeon with me. 10 minutes in, 20 minutes in. I swear I've seen faster respawns than this queue. It's like, come on. I'm a Tauren Druid, fully resto spec, cooked, rolling, swift mend ready. I'll even throw in a moonfire for style points. But apparently that's not enough to summon a tank from the void. At this point, you start imagining all sorts of crazy scenarios. Maybe the tanks are stuck in traffic in Stormwind. Maybe they've gone AFK in Goldshire. Or maybe, just maybe, they're all too scared to heal a pug group with me. I get it, the chaos is real. Queuing alone is a special kind of suspense. A test of patience, humor, and maybe a little self-deprecation. But hey, I've got full bags, quests to grind, and an audience who's watching me complain in style. So we'll keep at it. A tank will show eventually. Probably. Whoa, 45 viewers. That's an honor right there. For a Tauren Druid out here soloing quests, juggling bags, and queuing endlessly for dungeons. That's wild. Y'all are literally witnessing the chaos firsthand. The bad corn, the unhealthy pumpkins, full bags, random pug antics, and you're still sticking around. That's loyalty, folks. Honestly, it feels like the herd is growing. Every hoof step I take, every moon fire I throw, you're here watching it all go down. Makes me want to stand tall, flex these horns, and maybe do a little happy Tauren dance. Don't worry, I'll keep it PG, mostly. So huge thanks to every one of you. 45 strong, hanging out in eastern plaguelands with a Tauren dad healing, grinding, and sometimes just talking to his baby calf in between queues. You guys rock. Ah, Mists of Pandaria. Now that's a zone full of secrets, chaos, and beautiful storytelling. Let me hit you with some awesome facts you might not know while we're leveling. Pandaren Start Zone. Pandaren weren't originally playable in Vanilla WoW. MoP introduced them as a neutral race with their own starting zone, the Wandering Isle, giving players a full cinematic intro. Brewmaster Monks. Monks were added in MoP with the Brewmaster tank spec, a monk who literally drinks chai-powered brews to absorb damage. The idea? Drinking to survive, and it's actually legit in PvE pet battles. MoP introduced the fully featured pet battle system, letting you collect, level, and battle pets like a mini Pokemon game inside World of Warcraft. Scenic Pandaria Zones. Pandaria is divided into zones like the Jade Forest, Valley of the Four Winds, Kunlai Summit, and the Vale of Eternal Blossoms, all packed with verticality, hidden caves, and stunning vistas. Lore Deep Dive. MoP isn't just pretty, it tells the story of the ancient Pandaren empires, the Shah, manifestations of negative emotions, and the ongoing tension between Horde and Alliance in a zone that's supposed to be peaceful. Shah mechanics. Each Shah represents a human emotion, anger, despair, doubt, which affects not just boss mechanics, but sometimes entire zones. A level 40 to 45 player might notice that even small mobs carry Shah energy in classic-era MoP. Faction neutrality. Pandaren are neutral at the start and choose a faction at the end of their starting zone, a rare choice that directly affects early gameplay and storyline interactions. Legendary weapons and gear. MoP introduced legendary questlines like the Thunder Fury of Pandaria. Level equivalents in lore, okay, maybe not, literally, but epic gear was a huge thing. And reputation grinds for truly unique rewards. Challenge mode. Dungeons. MoP added time dungeon runs with medals for skill and speed, incentivizing group coordination like never before. epic story cinematics. The expansion had some of WoW's best cinematic storytelling, like the opening scene with the Wandering Isle storming through the waves, or the Veil of Eternal Blossoms finale. So yeah, MoPA isn't just another expansion. It's a treasure trove of lore, beauty, and mechanics that even a Tauren Druid can geek out over while grinding quests and dungeons. Ah, finally. Scholomance, the creepy, musty dungeon every classic player remembers. Nothing says Druid chaos incoming like stepping into a school for necromancers. The smell hits you first. Musty tomes, rotting corpses, and a hint of arcane nastiness. As a resto druid, this is my playground, keeping the group alive while undead students, failed experiments, and angry teachers try to make a mess of everything. Lore-wise, Scholomance was created by dark wizards to teach the art of necromancy. And obviously, things went very wrong. Now the halls are haunted, filled with restless spirits and mobs that will happily test how fast your H-oats can tick. For stream content, this is gold. We get tense pulls, spooky visuals, and every boss fight is a chance for me to show off some resto clutch healing, and maybe throw in a moonfire for dramatic flair when no one expects it. Bags will fill fast, tempers might flare, but nothing beats the rush of finally walking those halls. Let's make this a run to remember. Scholomance, here comes your Tauren healer. Ah, first pool, first boss. And I'm down. Classic Scholomance welcome. That's okay. Even the mightiest Tauren Druid has to respect necromantic education. Let's break it down. I probably misjudged the ads. Maybe the tank pulled a little too fast, or someone decided to test if standing in fire was optional. Spoiler, it isn't. The silver lining. Respawn is right there, so we can hop back in, brush off the ashes, and go again. And hey, viewers, this is Prime Entertainment, a resto druid learning humility the hard way. H-yachts, swift mend, and tranquility will get their moment, I promise. Also, death gives us great commentary. I can point out boss mechanics, joke about my own mistakes, and hype the next pull even more. Scholomance isn't for the faint of heart, but it is for the Tauren who don't mind a little chaos, or dying spectacularly on stream. Ah, death jokes. Perfect for Scholomance and my resto druid chaos. Let's keep it in character and funny. Well, that was a surprise. I always thought death was more polite. Guess it's just aggressive today. You know, as a Tauren, I prefer grazing, not dying. But here we are. I didn't die. I'm just taking a very extended meditation. Very methodical. Ah, nothing like a little boss-induced nap to clear your mind. Scholomance does wonders for stress management. Death? Never heard of her. Oh, wait. She's standing right over there laughing at me. Well, that corpse pose is very flattering. Someone get me a hot and a camera. Remember, folks, death is just experience points with extra steps and a little embarrassment. Alright, let's talk Scholomance. Mobs, bosses, and everything in between, Tauren Druid style. Mobs, skeleton students and acolytes. The hallway trash mobs, mostly weak, but they love to stack up on you if you're not careful. Perfect for moonfire spam while keeping HOTS rolling. Cursed scholars, slightly tougher, with some shadow damage. Great for practicing those clutch swift mens. Aberrations, random failed experiments, usually big and ugly. Can one-shot a careless DPS if you're not healing smart. Haunted servants and spirits. They float, they attack, they interrupt spells. Spooky but manageable with HOTS and rejuvenation. Bosses. Instructor militia. First real test. Her ads can overwhelm a group if you don't CC. Classic spot, where I might have gone down earlier. Dr. Theolin Krastinov. Patchwork-style fight. Notable for crazy single-target damage spikes and ads that punish bad positioning. Timing swiftmens and tranquility. Here is key. Ras Frost Whisper, casters with powerful AoE and shadow nukes. Keep HOTS rolling and watch for CC. Lady Elusia Barov and Instructor Chillheart, duo boss fight. Coordinated chaos, ads, buffs, AoE. Perfect for Resto Druid juggling. Jandis Barov, tricky mechanics with portals and polymorphing minions. Balance form is fun here for kiting, but Resto is clutch for keeping everyone alive. Lorekeeper Polkelt and Darkmaster Gandling, endgame bosses, lots of ads, massive AoE damage, and complicated mechanics that can easily wipe an unprepared group. Every pull in Scholomance is a mix of spooky, chaotic, and hilarious, especially with a pug group. As a druid, I'm constantly switching forms, healing, and maybe tossing Moonfire just to remind everyone I exist. Ah, back with the same group. And let me tell you, these folks were solid. Pugs can be chaotic, but this crew, they actually knew what they were doing. As a Resto Druid, it's like a dream. Tanks holding aggro, DPS not standing in fire, and I can finally focus on throwing H-Oats, Swiftmen's, and a little Moonfire flare for fun. No random wipes, no running back from corpses every 5 seconds. It's also a great vibe for the stream. You can see the synergy, the clutch saves, and the occasional hilarious moment when someone underestimates a mob. We're talking textbook dungeon run, with just enough chaos to keep it entertaining. Honestly, finding a group like this is like spotting a unicorn in the Plaguelands. So we stick together, clear Scholomance, loot like pros, and laugh at every little death or near wipe along the way. Ah, Dire Maul. Now we're talking classic dungeon chaos with a mix of mobs, traps, and glorious loot. This place is huge, and as a Tauren Druid, I get to show off every form in the toolbox. Balance form for pulling trash mobs while questing solo. Resto when the group inevitably takes a beating. Cat for sneaky kiting, and Bear for emergencies. Dire Maul's like a playground for druids who love versatility. Lore-wise, this isn't just a dungeon. Dire Maul was once a great elven city, twisted by the ogres that now inhabit it. Each wing, east, west, and north, has its own feel, its own bosses, and its own story to uncover. And for the stream, gold. Every trap, every tool, and every boss fight is a chance to react joke and maybe overheal the DPS because, let's face it, they're gonna pull too many ads. Plus, the loot here can get ridiculous. Epic mats, vanity items, and sometimes that one piece you've been dreaming of for weeks. So let's roll into Dire Maul, keep the HOTs ticking, Moonfire ready, and maybe, just maybe, survive without wiping the group in style. Ah, classic Tauren Druid dilemma. Lowest level in the group. The baby calf of Dire Maul. It's fine. Mostly fine. Being the lowest level means I have to be extra careful with pulls. One bad aggro, and suddenly the whole group is staring at me like I pulled the wrath of every ogre in the zone. But hey, it's also a perfect opportunity to show off Resto's skills. Clutch heals, HOTs everywhere, swift men's flying. Also, it is fun for the stream. Viewers get to see a little underdog story in action. The Tauren dad, smallest in the party, trying not to die while keeping everyone else alive. Classic chaos, classic entertainment. Sure, my spells might hit a bit weaker, and my health pool is smaller, but the drama. Oh, the drama is epic. And honestly, nothing makes Moonfire feel more satisfying than seeing a low-level druid still keeping pace with higher-level chaos. Alright, let's talk Dire Maul. Because this dungeon isn't just a random ogre hangout, it's packed with lore. Dire Maul was originally a grand elven city, built long before the events of Warcraft 3. It was a hub of magical learning and craftsmanship. Think of it like the elven version of a university, with a lot more magic and fewer cafeteria complaints. Over time, the city fell into ruin. The ogres moved in, corrupting the area, and parts of the once beautiful structures became dangerous labyrinths, filled with traps, monsters, and lingering magical anomalies. Each wing, east, west, and north, tells a slightly different story of this fall from grace. Lore-wise, Dire Maul is also tied to powerful artifacts and old magic. The ogres aren't just squatters. They're exploiting the remnants of elven arcane power. That's why there's so much loot, dangerous enemies, and hidden secrets in every corridor. Ah, yes. So many trees. Dire Mall isn't just a dungeon. It's basically a giant, overgrown magical forest trapped inside a ruined city. Every hallway, courtyard, and broken tower has roots, vines, and ancient trees growing through the stone. As a Tauren Druid, it feels oddly comforting. Finally, some kinship in a dungeon filled with ogres and chaos. Of course, the trees aren't just decoration. Some hide traps, some obscure patrols, and some make pulling mobs extra chaotic. Because you think you're safe, and suddenly 3 ogres appear behind a vine. Classic. For the stream, it's perfect. I can joke about hugging the trees, taking a moment to meditate in nature while the group panics, and maybe even comment on which tree would make a perfect nap spot for a Tauren calf. Ah, Alzin the Wild, one of the notorious bosses of Dire Mall East. Now this guy's a perfect example of don't underestimate ogre mages. Lore-wise, Alzin is an ogre mage who's gone completely wild with fel and natural magic, merging raw arcane power with brute strength. He's a mix of brains and brawn, which makes his room chaotic as all get out. Mechanics-wise, he comes with a series of adds that constantly spawn, and his abilities punish poor positioning. For a resto druid like me, it's a non-stop juggling act. Goatees on the tank, swift men's on the low-health DPS, tranquility ready if it goes sideways, and maybe moonfire for fun on the ads. For the stream, he's gold. Tense moments, jokes about the wildness of the room, and maybe even some playful commentary like, Alton thinks he's scary, but I've survived baby tantrums worse than this. All right, Herd. That's going to be the end of today's adventure. Huge thanks for joining, sticking around, and surviving the chaos with me. The bad corn, full bags, dungeon wipes, and baby Tauren interruptions. You made this stream an absolute blast. 45 strong, witnessing the glorious chaos of a resto-balanced Tauren Druid leveling through the Plague Lands, Sholomance, and Dire Maul. Couldn't have done it without you. Remember, keep your HOEs rolling, your moonfires flying, and your calves well fed. I'll be back for more misadventures, more dungeon chaos, and of course more Tauren Dad energy. Until next time, herd strong, stay funky, and don't forget, every corpse is just a teaching moment, and every dungeon is an adventure. Thanks again for watching, and may your loot always be epic.